obligations upon a Jew according to the Torah. Now, you know, so the question is what makes a religious person first? A religious person could be somebody who, follows whatever parts of the Torah, whatever of the Torah, not even everything. They could be religious, according to modern day standards of being religious. A religious person is somebody who keeps the whole Torah, not the modern day, religious categorized person. A religious person, somebody who observes the Torah. God teaches observe my decrees and ordinances. There are people who are partially religious, who are half religious. Modern day religious isn't even half religious. So what exactly is the question here as far as the teaching over here goes? Is, what are the obligations upon a Jew according to the Torah from God? I mean, if you want to know what God thinks, the Torah is a great example here. So, the obligations upon a Jew is, to keep the entire Shulchan Aruch, which is the code of Jewish law. And, of course, there's such a thing as a person not being able to control themselves, and or turn a light on Shabbat by accident, something like that. And, forgetting to keep certain parts of the Torah, which is not their fault. So, if you couldn't keep a commandment in the Torah, and everything in the Torah is all an extraction from a commandment, as taught in the Torah, is, heaven considers that you kept it. So, what you see from, the Shulchan Aruch, the code of Jewish law, everything from the Torah, all extractions from the written Torah, from the commandments as well. The laws are extractions from the commandments. And, as far as a woman goes, what is the Torah for a woman as far as, being religious is the don't do's, the don't do commandments, the don't do laws that are extracted from the don't do commandments. Like, there are examples of, to not dress immodestly, to not be an immodest woman, for example. To not ignite a fire on Shabbat, a flame, a spark, etc. These are examples. A woman, I say it's pretty easy for a woman to not be religious. So, like, don't touch a man, before you're married. I mean, of course, there are people who just can't control themselves. It's not even their fault. If you can't control yourself and you did the right thing, you went 100% the right way, and you couldn't control yourself, that's no problem. Heaven considers you kept it. It's a part of life. And there might be other special reasons why you couldn't. Maybe by you not being able to do it, you get into the spiritual area of connecting with other people who don't keep the Torah, and they grow and learn from you, or they pass their tests from you, because it's like, make believe, for example, you have people arm wrestling, and you have an arm wrestling champion who passes by, walks by and watches, and he starts, calling you or teaching you what to do. So they learn off them, they become sharp off of them. Their lives might even become different because they learned something from arm wrestling. It might become better because they could be like, if I arm wrestled better, and I met this person, or I was not lucky enough for him to grace for his presence to grace me, as far as arm wrestling goes, or in life, that could change a person's life. So people, who God makes not being able to control the Torah, etc., it's all from God. You might grace people who don't know anything about Torah even, and might change their lives. You get into the areas of living life around there, because we're not living in a society of today's day and age where it was like it was before, the days of old and the former years, where everybody was religious and few people weren't religious, etc., etc. So the Torah also teaches something called Selech Harav, acquire for yourself a spiritual guide for a man. A woman does not have to acquire for herself a spiritual guide, a Rav. She does not have to. A woman does not have to put on tefillin, for example. So for a woman, it's the don't do commandments. It's the don't do's in the Torah. So you acquire for yourself a Rav. You set for yourself a Rav, of course, responsibly, and not somebody who's going to control you. He's there to guide you. Like I said before, it's like, you're in a tour of a trip, or in a tour of life, or a tour of spirituality, or a tour of the Torah. You're on a tour, for example. He's not supposed to control you, tell you exactly where to go. He's supposed to guide you to where you are already, and guide you to where it is. That's what the job of a Rav, of a spiritual guide. A Rav is a spiritual guide. So, how does one start with all of this? For example, let's say, Rav, apply for yourself a spiritual guide. A woman, the don't do's, learning, finding out, asking questions, maybe getting somebody to teach you, if you don't understand Hebrew, to teach you the entire, Shulchan Aruch. I mean, there are programs out there where they find you, a teacher or somebody, and they'll translate it to you in English, and, you start to learn things. So, and also in the Torah is what teaches to learn Torah every day. I say, learn in the morning and learn in the nighttime. It don't matter. I mean, learning Torah is learning Torah. It could be 2 minutes of learning Torah. It could be 30 seconds of learning Torah, Sometimes I don't have the time. I go 2 minutes of learning Torah for a day. You know what I'm saying? That's considered learning Torah. It's fulfilling your obligations. And, so there are commandments and laws and all these things. And where is it that God said you have to keep the Torah? It says in the Torah, observe my decrees and ordinances, observe my commandments. Observe. What does observe mean? I mean, in a literal sense, observe. You're observing. You're watching something. You observe His decrees and ordinances. You observe God's commandments. You're going by them. That's really what it means, to go by them, to keep them. The law says don't do this and this and this. You're going by them this way. You know what I'm saying? So there are explanations, and there are mystical explanations. But as far as doing what's the obligations are what I just outlined, and how great does a person want to be? That's their choice. They want to be Torah scholars, they want to be scholarly. I mean, there are also chances that are given or not given by God to become that way. So, there are many, I saw many messianical type of people who, for example, are very scholarly, but they're not like the Torah scholars out there. And for example, who would give you a chance in learning Torah? I mean, there are many Torah scholars out there who won't teach you Torah unless you're a corrupt individual. You would be corrupt, or he has some kind of soft spot for you or something like that. Somebody who's like a messianical figure type of person is pretty straight up and sharp and real. And they might say, he's great, I don't want to teach him, deep down inside, it's because he wouldn't go corrupt. So they don't get these opportunities. So sometimes you got to take your own opportunity, make your own opportunity. And so what do you want to know exactly what it is that God wants from you? Your obligations according to the Torah. And there's something called, the Torah being grown, as far as obligation, do's and don'ts, where a person could sin in the eyes of God, which is punishable. I'm not going to get into why and how, but so there are sins that people commit. But if a person didn't know about a sin, Torah teaches a lot of things, not held accountable. A person grew up in a family where there's no Torah, for example, and no one knew anything. Person's not held accountable. It's considered as if it was a kidnapped person. Also teaches things like this in the Gemara. So it's not as complicated as it looks, but it can be very hard depending on what your obstacles are and who's in your way. I mean, you can have an abusive family that despises the Torah, and you see a person trying to become religious. Fortunate enough, he became religious, or unfortunately he failed because of them, and maybe later on he became religious. This is just a good waste of time, depending on the circumstances in life. So, but you need to ask yourselves, the normal question is, what exactly do you want from yourself deep down inside, from your heart? What exactly do you want? What do you really want? what would you say? Wow, I I indulge in that. You really want the fulfilling life, the meaningful life, and the grown life of the Torah deep down inside. You want to be as great as can. You want to be as great as possible. And many Rishaim, wicked people, failures, they say, it's too hard. I don't want to do it, or my obstacles are too much, or it's too hard, or whatever. I don't want to do it. And they choose to be wicked. That's the reason too. You know. So for a woman, it's the don't do commandments, and the don't do's in the Torah. It's very easy for a woman to become religious. And there's also in the Torah that teaches about a tzaddik, a chassid, a good person. These are all different, you know, um, calibers as far as leagues go. A chassid goes beyond what the Torah asks of him. Like David HaMelech was a chassid. I'm not talking about a chassidic, I'm talking about a chassid. Don't confuse chassid with chassidic. So the question is also, did you get the opportunity? The Torah doesn't hold you accountable if you didn't know. If you sinned willingly, you made your choice, that was your choice, and you sinned willingly, you get a sin. But if it was just like that, you're not held accountable for it at all. That you didn't know, or you did it by accident, or you accidentally confused the day, maybe Sunday with Shabbat, or something like that. What do you mean? It's a weekend morning. Weekend mornings could be similar, right? It could feel similar. So, a person shouldn't beat on themselves or go hard on themselves. It's there's a right way of doing things and a wrong way of doing things. There's a wrong way to become religious. There's a right way to become religious. But it's that part of you deep down inside that knows that God is everything, and that part of you on the inside that maybe has godliness. You ask yourself, what do I really want in this life? What do I really want? Remember that God is forever and ever. You live the life of God. This is forever and ever.